Hey, what's up guys, it's Oakley, and we're in Rome 2 playing a 1 versus 1 battle. I am going to be leading the forces of Epirus here. My opponent, Sol Invictus, is going to be playing as the Spartans off in the distance here on the battlefield of Rugion. Pretty open, flat map with some areas that are forested, but overall pretty fair and balanced map. So the rules for this were essentially, I think, max 8 infantry, max 6 of the same, max 1 LE, no artillery. So my main force is pushing up. I have a Hellenic Royal Cav General sitting pretty in the back. I have 3 mercenary Italian cavalry and they're flanking on the left. I do have 1 Aspis companion hidden in the woods. He's protected by a Peltas and a mercenary Cretan archer. My main body up here is 3 of the cheapest slingers, a Peltas and a mercenary Rhodian slinger. Then in the center, 2 hoplites, 2 levy pikemen, and then 3 mercenary Samnite warriors. Let's get a nice look in at the troops because I love the classical period and all that it has to offer, especially hoplite forces moving forward. Always looks so glorious, and Epirus is a faction that you just don't get to see played with so much. So my Italian cav is kind of just pushing around, seeing what it can do, and what it can do is not too much. It's up against here 3 Tarentine cavalry forces, 1 up here and then 2 over in this position, and they are just there to kind of try and quarantine my forces. So I have slingers up front and they're doing a bit of a number on his cavalry, slowly starting to pick them away, but he pulls them out just in time. And so that's what I'm going to be doing, just prodding with my skirmishers, cavalry to back them up, and then moving up with my infantry body. I've established a wedge position here to try and force a strong position between 2 of his cavalry forces, and I'm gonna come back in and try and reinforce this with my slingers and other troops. So what does Sol Invictus have to bring to the battlefield? Well, as Sparta, he's going to be bringing a lot of spears, and his main skirmishing body is 2 of the Gorgo skirmishers. Actually 3 of those, I should say, and then 1 Helot Slinger. So the Gorgo skirmishers are all female units, and these guys actually have some extra armor penetrating damage that they can do, so they can be pretty deadly, so I have to watch out for that. He also has a big screening force of spears, and I think it's 2 Perioricoi pikemen, yeah, 1 on the left, 1 on the right, so it's a mirror deployment. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 of these Perioricoi spears in the back. Heroes of Sparta, a core in the back, Royal Spartans and Heroes of Sparta alternating, and then the cavalry that we saw on the flanks, more Perioricoi spears and others. On the left, he's going to get a bit curious with the Tarentine cav and wonder kind of what's going on in the forest. So he's going to start to plod up through here. You can hear the birds chirping, deer prancing, and all of a sudden he's going to realize, oh my, there's a bit of an ambush force there that I had set up. And my archers were not in the best position to take advantage of this. I'm going to try and kind of retrain my guys. They're back hidden, but I was just trying to bait some of his guys to get in range and try and shoot them up. And that's something you often see me do. On this flank here, I'm again pushing up with my cavalry, screening my skirmishers, but the closer I get, the closer I am going to be to the Spartan forces. Meanwhile, I decide to try and target the front ranks of Sparta. So my main target here is going to be the Perioricoi pikemen. I'd rather hit these guys than hoplites. I believe the hoplites have better defense. These guys have smaller shields, and they pose more of a threat to me, I believe. He's going to start pushing forward, deciding that this engagement is going to suit him well with spears and close support, which is a good move. Tarentine cav here is holding strong at 75 men. I get a couple parting volleys on him, but then he pulls out and exchanges. Meanwhile, my mercenary Italian cav is getting slaughtered with the close proximity of the spears, and he's going to see me off rather handedly, so my unit there is going to be forced to retreat. Meanwhile, his cavalry force, as you can see here, did take a significant beating, but is alive, and it's going to come back in here for seconds to try and clean me up. He's going to go ahead and grab 1 of my slingers here, and now finally I do bring up the close support of my infantry, my swordsmen. All his precursor jabs and others are going to be wasted on my cavalry, or not so much wasted. This is an important move for him to try and take out my horsemen, because I have the mobility advantage. But with my Samnite warriors here, I'm able to ward off the spears. And with some of my skirmishers, I've been getting preliminary shots off on his Gorgo skirmishers, with the same time have been focus fired by my guys. And yes, he got some cleanup shots on my own slingers, but I'm trading a bit preferentially. I've exposed somewhat of my left flank to Sol Invictus's forces, and these Periodic Pike Spearmen are actually really quick. So they're going to be a good force to kind of screen and force my guys back. I don't have much to punish spears. I don't have too many swords in my army, and they're all kind of concentrated on this front. So we'll see what I end up doing. My right wing is still kind of sitting pretty on that flank. I'm waiting for a good opportunity to strike these guys. Paraguay spears were starting to pull out of position, and my archers are starting to do good damage at their flank. So that is helping me hold down this front. I'm just waiting for when I can crash in on my opponent. Up in the center, I am trying to pull in my Peltas to get a cheeky shot on his skirmishers, but he has more troops closing in. So the engagement's going to get in here soon. He did have some Periodic spears that were a little out of position. So I tried to do a quick charge with my spear, with my own mercenary Samnite warriors to try and catch his guys out of position. We'll see how that goes. My other unit here is forced to form up and brace against his cavalry force, and I'm just going to decide to pull back in the center. So my main goal here was to try and focus fire with my skirmishers against his. I'm doing a pretty good job of that, and then just delay and pull away from his spears where it's not necessary. Although I think preemptively here he's going to get a bit closer than I would have liked. Just as I'm trying to get more focus fire on his Gorgo skirmishers and others, he is forcing the issue. So I pull up with 2 of my Levy pikemen. These guys haven't taken any damage, and they are going to be moved up in block formation just to threaten his flank. I'm going to pull out and try and get mercenary Italian cav on his flank, but it's in the retreat here that my cheap skirmishers are getting focused down by Gorgo skirmishers and others. That is not looking good for me. I'm going to decide that this is where I take my stand. I have my opponent drawn out, and so I'm going to charge back into his Royal Spartans. I have his own Periodic pikemen attack from the flank, and this is where I'm going to turn about. Same thing with my mercenary Rhodians, turn about and focus fire on this big blob. He's going to see an opportunity to charge through his Tarentine cav, and this is where I have some reserve cavalry in the mix to try and hold those guys back. Meanwhile, in the center, I'm going to decide to hold strong with hoplites formed up. Enemy doesn't really want to close with me, and I'm going to pull up with Peltas and other forces, especially on this flank, to try and deal with the Helot Slingers and others. Meanwhile, cavalry is coming back to the center to try and beat back any of the penetration he wants to get done. The Tarentine cav here decide to go on a flanking strike against my mercenary Samnites. Not going to go too well for them. I'm just going to easily countercharge them, and that's going to secure my side of the battlefield here. So pretty happy with how this is going. Deep sword formation against Heroes of Sparta. Yeah, he will win in the end, but I have enough supporting troops to deal really well. I'm destroying his Periodic pikemen there. So pushing strongly with these Periodic pikemen, I've isolated his Royal Spartans here, and now I'm going to turn about and try and deal with them, which is awesome. My other spear block here, Levy pikemen also forcing back the rest of his troops, and they get a nice clean sweep with my mercenary Italians, get the bulk of his skirmishers. So I think I'm trading well. It pulls off the pressure there, and then I'm going to try and target the center. All of a sudden he's forced to retreat, so where he was willing to put a lot of pressure up through my center, now I can draw everything of his back away from that. Allows me to clean up the rest of the forces here, and now start to sweep in on the flank. My Peltas here got a couple strikes in on the Royal Spartans and now are engaged in melee, and then I'm pulling in on the flanks as well. My one Peltas unit here will go back on normal speed real soon, but he has been pulled in. Rather than charging into these Helot Slingers and wasting my ammo and time there, what I want to do is immediately strike at the back of his Heroes of Sparta with my javelins, try and take those guys out, and then use an Aspis companion force to strike straight through his slinger. So all of a sudden I have a nice clean strike at his skirmisher base. I'm targeting his units here, so I'm pretty happy. I have archers as well targeting the rear of his Royal Spartans, so hopefully they start to drop soon. But then this is going to be a recurring issue with me. The sheer number of spears here to support going to be coming in and sweeping back my forces. Cavalry here is still staging to support my skirmishers in the event that Tarentine cav does pull up. They're going to move to intercept. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. The enemy Sol Invictus has cleaned up my forces in the rear line, so now he's somewhat stabilizing, and we'll see where it goes from here. Royal Spartans, as I've said, starting to take a beating. My main line holding fairly well, but it's going to start to crack here pretty soon. Let's go back to play. I realize that I have no real support against these Tarentine cav if they're able to slip through, so my skirmishers decide to retarget against these cavalry force and try and take them out early on. My pikeman force here is trying to engage with the enemy forces. I do have to constantly click attack orders or movement orders to get them to actually engage, otherwise they'll just stand here. Meanwhile, my other pike force is formed up deep. Levy pikemen doing a good job, but they did leave a crucial little gap here. And the enemy does get clipped at the last second, which is going to allow me to come in with the Italian cav, or sorry, Aspis, and see them off. But I charge headlong through there against pikes, who are now going to start to deploy their own pikes as well. So my Aspis companions here need to definitely pull out soon. This spear wall is definitely stabilized against me, so I need to pull out of that engagement here soon. I'm focused on this position where I've been able to take out his Tarentine cav, but in the same time, mercenary Samnites are starting to drop. Over here, I've landed some nice strikes with my Hellenic Royal Cav in the rear, continuing to try and take out these Gorgo skirmishers, but again, lots of enemy spears in the rear lines, seeing me off, so we'll see how that goes. I do pull out with my Aspis companion. I was thinking of doing a strike on the rear of the Spartans, but then I realized that they have big buffs against cavalry, and I don't want to get caught in a sticky situation, so what I do is kind of pull out of that fight, and let my Levy pikemen tank out with the Periorkoi spears, and then focus fire on this unit here. And go ahead and watch the main engagement. I have two forces against the Periorkoi spears, and then here this Royal Spartan force is brought down to half strength with arrows, spears, everything thrown into its back, its rear, and it is still left standing, carving through my front lines. And so that is just how powerful they are. My two hoplites doing fairly better. And now I have my mercenary Italians and other units rallying around, and again, cavalry is trying to slip through. I'm going to intercept them, but Royal Spartans in the close proximity. We'll see how that goes with my Hellenic Cav. I do knock a bunch of the Spartans down. I'm going to have a quick blow in the Tarentine and then pull out of there. One of the Cav is already gone, and this general here is going to pull out, only having taken 10 losses and 71 kills, so he's doing very well. And then now I'm reforming. Rhodian Slingers, good health, good strength, going to be targeting Heroes of Sparta who have exposed their back to me, so I'm getting the most efficient strikes that I can get. Rear lines, I'm trying to see off the Periorkoi spears, and mostly I'm just trying to rally my rear lines. The problem is I don't have much infantry left, and so you can see all that I have left really is holding strong hoplites at half strength against Royal Spartans and Heroes of Sparta. That's not going to be going my way, and somehow there are still Gorgo skirmishers and others alive left standing. So I have to do something to deal with those mercenary Italian cav shooting around. We'll see how that goes. And then over back here, Peltas still alive. Gonna be targeting these Periorkoi, killing my own mercenary Cretans. At the same time, my Cretans got 124 kills and now are sacrificing themselves in melee to tie down the enemy, but it's not gonna amount to much. Royal Spartans not gonna crack. Here in the back, another opportunistic strike, take out his Gorgo skirmishers. Mercenary Italian cav pulls out with almost 0 losses, so that's pretty good. But this big, juicy one here is gonna be an issue for me. Thankfully, though, the armor penetration of these guys is being used on cavalry, which I'm not too concerned about. I would be a little bit more worried if they targeted something else. I was going for a nice hammer and anvil on the back of his Royal Spartan, or Heroes of Spartan I should say. They turned around at the last minute to meet my charge, and they're going to see me off, but it did buy my hoplites a little bit more time, and it's going to pull off the pressure, so hopefully to try and rally my forces here at the last minute, but there isn't much left. Spartan forces here are going to cheer, my main line now crumbling, and boom, there you go. Now I have almost nothing left. One unit of slingers still standing with 113 kills, but they have almost no ammo, so now my forces are starting to crumble. I'm pulling in my reserves to try and do damage. Aspis companions here were coming in to save my pikemen, and so I have 2 pikemen here to try and zone out the enemy. Periorkoi spears I'm not too worried about. It's the Royal Spartans that should be a concern. And so now we can try and greet them, but there's another Royal Spartan force coming from the side, so this is starting to get a little bit scary for me. I do land another strike here with my cavalry, but just the sheer number of spears reinforcing means I'm just starting to crumble, and now I have no core to my force. Very, very problematic for me. Peltas getting thrown. Oh, sorry, Rhodian Slingers actually. That is desperate. 212 kills so far. Now that they're out of ammo, they're going to try and rally with my Levy pikemen. I land a nice strike over here with some Aspis, but it is not enough to save my Levy pikemen. Now they rout. Gonna go and do another hammer and anvil. Let's see, 264 kills, 265 on this Aspis companion, 267. So it only gets 5-6 kills, a double cavalry strike. against these heroes of Sparta, but look at this, they're holding strong at 73. Attack in the rear does almost nothing to these Spartans, and even in the pullout that I have after this, as more units are coming in the mix, is going to result in more losses on my end. Almost up to 100 kills on my mercenary Italians, but now look at what's left for Sparta. All spears, and what do I have left? Well, I have a couple levy pikes breaking Perioikoi spears, which is awesome. I have Royal Spartans here tied up and exhausted. That's maybe one of the few things that I have going for me, is just how tired, weak they are. But man, I am getting swarmed by the spears at this point. Had I had maybe a couple more archer or spear, or even just one more sword unit at good strength, I think it could have done a good job here. But man, this is down to the wire. Some of my units here are tired and exhausted, so I'm trying to pop second wind. But now all of a sudden I hit a critical moment where I start to lose more forces. My 2 skirmishers in the back that had just come back start routing. My main line starts routing, and so all of a sudden I'm like, oh, this is not looking good. So I figure, you know, Spartans have a lot of units left, pikes, spears, elite units. Not much I can do, so I'm going to give it a nice college try, as some people would say, and just charge in and see how many final kills I can get. So glorious fight, I would say. Oops, sorry. I would say for my general here, he is pulling out a victory. I mean, against spears with almost 200 kills, really good for him. 246 kills on mercenary Rhodians. Holy crap. Yeah, so that was pretty freaking awesome. A lot of my guys doing a really good job, but alas, fell victim to the Spartan spears. Cool to see these two factions. You don't see them play too much in Rome 2. So I hope you guys did enjoy this battle. Again, Sulla Invictus did a really good job counteracting my cavalry advantage and just picking and choosing the right battles. I thought I got some nice sneak attacks into his rear lines. But at the end of the day, I just didn't have the infantry corps to hold back the might of Sparta. You can see the final unit tallies here. He brought 200 more men than me, so really pretty even on the infantry fight. His cavalry didn't get much done. Skirmishers didn't get much done. One of them did. Most of the killing power here, all with his elite units, 237, 258, 226, 193, 135. So really good. All of the killing having been done by, you know, the 1% of his army. Meanwhile, my guys did pretty well, I would have to say. I mean, cavalry, the elite guys, definitely paying for themselves. Mercenary Italians doing okay, kind of the equivalent of Tarentine Cav, which is fine because they cost roughly the same. My own skirmishers doing way better than his. I mean, 247 on Rhodians. I mean, that's more than most of the Royal Spartans. 125 on mercenary Cretans. Also good stuff. And then these slingers still doing pretty well. I'm surprised Levy Pikemen, 135, 149 doing well for themselves. It's mostly these hoplites that got thrashed, and even mercenary Samnite warriors who are typically pretty good just did not hold up against some of the Spartans, heroes of Sparta from the front. Also, notable mentions, Peltas. I always like to bring these against Spartan troops, get them into the rear, and throw armor-piercing spears into the back of the enemy. And yeah, you get 112 kills, not only with a couple spear volleys, but also closing for melee. They did very well. So what could I have changed? Well, looking at the balance of kills, I think I did fairly well, perhaps. Well, I think I could have probably won and done better with this build had I been a little bit more kitey than I was. I think I should have retreated a little bit sooner with my infantry instead of committing. I should have finished to stripping away his skirmisher advantage and dealing with his cavalry before then choosing to engage. I chose at a moment where I only had a slight skirmisher and cavalry advantage. And I think I really had more play, more time to just pull back and continue to chip away at the Spartan force. Stripping those away would have allowed me to then focus fire on his most elite troops, which I sort of did, but didn't get the most out of that. At the end, perhaps these guys could have been traded out for more cost-efficient units. I'm tempted to think what would happen if I brought even more of these cheap levy pikes, seeing as how well they did. But anyways, that's my post-mortem. I do hope you guys enjoyed. It was a very fun battle. And yeah, I mean, losses on both sides. I mean, difference of like 20 men. So very even on both sides. Hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. See you in the next one. And peace out.